What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Happier, Healthier Arkansas podcast hosted by the Specific Chiropractic Centers. I'm Dr. Cam.
And I'm Dr. Chris, and we just want to thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button, and thank you for joining us on our mission towards making Arkansas the happiest and healthiest state on the planet. Welcome back, everybody, to Happier, Healthier Arkansas, where the docs here at the Specific are on a mission to make Arkansas the happiest, healthiest state on the planet. Currently, we're number 49 out of 50 in overall health. In order to get to number 1, the way that we're going to do that is help people be the pilots of their lives, not the passengers to their bodies and minds. Right here, who's talking? This is Dr. Chris with the Specific, and who I got with me is Miss Stephenie A. Cooke, Executive Director for Alzheimer's Arkansas, an organization that's not just geared towards helping those who are afflicted with dementia or cognitive disorders, but really for the person who has to care for that person. So, Stephenie, super excited to have you on here. This is going to be an awesome episode, very enlightening and very heartwarming. What's the background with that, with Alzheimer's itself that's personal to you?
Sure. Well, and first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be here and to share with your viewers and listeners. But I actually, my personal connection to Alzheimer's Arkansas specifically came in 2011 timeframe. My grandmother had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's in her mid-80s. And when we saw the types of things that were happening in her life, it was pretty scary. She lived alone. My mother was her neighbor and became kind of her primary caregiver. And my sister and I and their extended family just noticed what a toil this, my grandmother's struggles were having on the rest of the family. Not just her and what she was experiencing with the disease, but what the physical and the emotional struggles that my mother began to go through. And those all trickled down to the rest of the family. And when my grandmother came to the conclusion that she wasn't herself, she would have lucid moments, and she basically said, I don't want to be a burden to the family. Put me away, put me somewhere else. That was the last thing we wanted to do. We wanted to stay home and care for her as long as we could. And so I went on a quest to search for an organization that could help the family caregivers just as much as the person living with the Alzheimer's, because back then we didn't know what we know today, the statistics about the toil on caregivers, but that was just important to me to find help for the family, So my grandmother was my icon. She was my favorite person in the world. And so it was very challenging to watch her go through this herself. And I needed to learn how to better communicate with her so that our relationship remained intact for as long as I had her. So, I still get very emotional when I talk about her. She passed away shortly after I started researching and learning more about Alzheimer's and related dementias and such, but I think about her almost on a daily basis, because now I am an integral part of the staff of Alzheimer's Arkansas and see on a daily basis the struggles families go through, just as we were those many years ago.
What are some of those struggles that you're referring to?
Oh, the list is very long, and one of the things I think that we need to understand is everyone's situation is unique. And so one of the things our organization prides itself on is providing free resources, programs and services to family caregivers in a customized way. We want to listen to our caregivers and other family members to better understand what their specific needs are, because not everyone is the same. Our caregivers, including myself as a caregiver formerly, it may be something as simple as I can't sleep. I can't shut my mind off. I'm always worried about mom or dad or whoever I'm caring for. I don't sleep well. I'm not eating. My stress levels are out the roof. I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm the only one that is dealing with this situation. or in some cases, I'm embarrassed. It's something culturally that you just don't talk about. You just shove your feelings away and you just deal with it because it's part of life. Maybe we feel like it's just part of normal aging, and Alzheimer's and dementia is not a part of normal aging. And then some caregivers will just be lost, maybe because of the place they're living in or the lack of social support or other outreach in their areas. They don't even know where to start. You know, who can I reach out to even ask a question? Sometimes it's lack of, medical assistance and proper diagnosis of what their loved one is going through. And on that end, there are a lot of forms of dementia that are completely reversible. You know, some are not, but others that are. And it goes back to getting a proper diagnosis and going to someone that you can trust to talk to help you through that journey. Mm-hmm. But we also hear from a lot of caregivers that just want to talk. They just want someone not to fix their situation, but just to listen attentively. And so our staff, we pride ourselves in doing that. Sometimes it's just as simple as listening and reassuring people that they are not in this journey or on this journey alone, that there are resources that are available to help them, not just the loved one, but from a family, perspective. I know our organization, for example, to help support caregivers, we offer educational programming to give them a day where they can come and listen to experts, to visit vendors that help supply products and services to help them at home caring for their loved one. We provide respite activities to give a break to the family caregiver so that they can come for a couple of hours to a brunch or to lunch, maybe just talk to folks that are going through the same things they're going through, or just something for fun to get their minds off of what they do the other 22 hours of the day. And we paint. We design things on wood. We may do yoga and stretching, just provide respite activities. And then we also have some financial assistance because we know families do. A lot of the family caregivers that we work with may have full-time jobs that they have lost because of the situation at home and having to take off so much, or they've gone from full-time employment to part-time so that they can be at home more. So that's stressful in and of itself when you feel like you don't have the financial stability or that safety net that you need. So our caregivers, their needs are vast, mm-hmm. and we just want to be a resource to help them.
What does a typical day for a caregiver look like in terms of physically, mentally, and emotionally when caring for most likely a family member in the house who is afflicted with dementia and or Alzheimer's?
And I think that is going to vary. That is a loaded question because part of, and I just had a phone call actually about this situation yesterday afternoon, and a text that came in to me about 9 o'clock last night with a friend of a caregiver, from the outside looking in at the toll that this was taking on her friend and how can we help her. Because many mornings start with, haven't been asleep at all because the person I am caring for at home has sundowned all afternoon and evening, and I've had a rough night. I haven't slept myself. And then you go into caregiver mode of making sure your loved one is fed and preparing something to eat, to bathing or personal grooming, to getting them settled so that they're doing some activity possibly that you have to be involved in mid-morning to lunch, and then it's another meal prep time. I'm putting aside maybe my errands and taking care of my personal needs because now I'm focused continuously on them. Their bills to pay, not just for myself, but for them. There are doctor's appointments that have to be coordinated and organized, or transportation that I have to provide if I'm at home caring for my loved one. And so it's sacrificial. That caregiving role, and let me say, Dr. Chris, that a lot of people out there probably don't even see themselves as a caregiver because they think, I am the spouse of this person, or I'm the daughter or son. It's my job to do this. And so it's just part of being family. We're blood kin. This is something I'm supposed to do. So they don't even see themselves as a caregiver. But our current research tells us that if caregivers are honest and give honest assessments of what's going on, about a quarter of them are depressed. About 3/4 of them have some chronic illness themselves that have been kind of put by the wayside, that they're not dealing with because they are solely focused on the loved one that they're caring for. And their lives are completely changed because of that. And so you think about the physical stuff. Maybe I'm lifting more, maybe they're falling more frequently, and I'm helping them with that. So I've got neck ache, I've got back ache, I'm not eating well, I've got tummy aches or headaches just from the stress of all the thoughts of things that have to do, or the things that are not being done, the things I'm neglecting. So that's physical, mental, and emotional, and psychological in and of itself, and sometimes spiritual, because this changes what I'm able to do or not do with my time. And when we say time to a caregiver, they say, what time? What free time? I don't have any free time. I don't have time for myself. And so we're trying to come up with possible solutions to help them on their journey to lessen those stresses and for them to be reminded again to show grace to themselves, that you can only do what you can do, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be on someone else's time, and to come to a place where you're not comparing yourself to other people, or what would such and such do, or how would they you have to just do the best that you can, and show yourself some grace.
A thought that came to my mind that I think a lot of people forget, especially when they're in the role of prioritizing someone else, is that if my health is not up to par, up to speed, or optimal, then I'm going to show up less than I expect myself to in the roles I need to fulfill.
Right.
So let's shift the mindset real quick of, if you want to be the best caregiver possible, or if you want to be the best daughter or son for your parent or grandparent who has Alzheimer's, the best thing that you can do for them is to show up for yourself first.
Agreed. And so we talk about the same things you talk about, and we are not medical professionals. We don't have the training you have, but we do our best to try to remind all caregivers that self-care is number one, and that rest, quality of rest, is really, really important. Proper nutrition, movement, which I know you talk a lot about, is don't stay stationary. Get up and move around. Get yourself some fresh air. Even if it's 10 or 15 minutes to walk outside and get fresh air, and walk around your yard or down the street and back if you can. And even if that's done with your loved one, take them out with you on a short stroll. But to move, to do any and everything you can to reduce stress, and that stress could be physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual in nature, and keeping social networks. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That is so hard for most of us, is to even use the word help. And when you have people that are surrounding you with love and support and are offering to help, again, show yourself grace and accept that. Your burden is someone else's blessing so often. I have to be reminded of that myself at times. But if someone does offer, accept that. And I would encourage anyone out there listening or watching that if you have an opportunity to gift that act of service, whether it's just to come for 30 minutes or an hour to sit with your friend's loved one, or another thing that you can do is, especially during holiday season and all, is prepare a dessert or a meal and take to them. But that in and of itself, a hobby of cooking, caregivers need to maintain a hobby, something that brings joy to their heart and makes them feel fulfilled outside of caring for their loved one, but to do something that brings joy and happiness in their lives. So social networks and having a positive mental attitude plays a strong role in their health and their vitality and in their brain health. I mean, we know that, that in recent months and years, that brain health, we can control a lot of what our brain is doing, right? And so our caregivers need to be aware that just because, if they're a family member of someone that is living with the disease of a form of dementia, that they aren't necessarily going to go through the same thing in their lives. They have a lot of control. The majority of the control of whether they're going to get a diagnosis is actually within their ownership. And those are the types of things that they can do as a preventative measure, taking care of myself. Sleeping, eating well, movement, social networks, positive mental attitude, reducing stress, all of those things which I'm sure you have spoken about and that you talk about consistently are things that you can do for brain health and the prevention of dementia.
How common, or what are the common things people report when it comes to feeling isolated with just taking care and being stuck inside the house taking care of the person afflicted with Alzheimer's?
Oh, well, a lot of our caregivers, share with us just the fact that when they decide to pick up the phone and call us, or they decide to pop into our office and just want to talk to someone, or turn on their computer to join a hybrid support group meeting, or a coffee with caregivers, which we provide on a monthly basis. If they're honest, I think, with themselves and with us, they talk about their struggle with isolation, with feeling depressed, alone. Again, just the fact that they're not able to spend time with their friends the way they once did. Their communication changes. When they do talk to friends, it may be on the phone versus seeing them face to face, because they don't have the luxury of going out to meet them for lunch, or going to the gym in the morning, or to a yoga studio in the afternoon, whatever it is. Drinks out with friends after work, because maybe they aren't working. I mean, they are home, and so it's real, and we just do our best to encourage them to do something, and whether that is talk to a professional themselves to get help, counseling support, or simply joining a support group. And the neat thing about support groups today is that if you don't want your voice heard, or you don't want your face seen, we have hybrid meetings or Zoom type support group meetings, so you don't have to show that. You don't have to allow others to know who you are, and yet get the support you need. And so don't think that you're alone, because you're not. And there are organizations like ours who are here strictly for caregivers and caregiver focused to help them. So whether it is a support group or a respite, and respite is a break. It's just simply a break away from the norm or the patterns that have been formed. A respite activity of some sort is to do that. And what we recommend is that friends of, loved ones of, hey, offer to go and get that person, and offer to go with them to that support group, or say, come on, tag along with me. We're going to run up and do X, Y, and Z to get away and get you away from this. Or here are the keys to your car. Go out and get yourself a cup of coffee or a decent meal. I'm going to sit here, with your mom or dad, and let you do that. So isolation is real, and it does impact mentally and physically our caregivers, and it's just so important that they seek assistance and ask for help for themselves, and not be afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm. So with respite activities, is the definition of that someone comes, watches the family member with Alzheimer's and I go out and do something fun?
That could be, or the fact that you may be able to find and it may be that you need a skilled support person, someone with dementia training, or someone that can administer drugs and such, that you have some kind of home health agency come in, skilled or unskilled, to help sit with your loved one. One of the things that our organization does is provide respite grants. And so we actually help provide financial assistance to pay for someone to come and sit with your loved one so that you can leave, or even stay within your realms of your home, but go to a different room and read, or go take a long bath, just to get out of sort of that particular environment, the single environment. So respite can mean I completely leave someone else in care of my loved one so that I can completely get away. Or it could be that we jointly go to places where we separate. We go to a location, and there are folks here in Arkansas that do offer respite activities so that you and your loved one with dementia actually go to the same place, but you separate, and there's a room for the caregivers to do some respite fun activity, whether it's an art project or a support group. It kind of depends upon the place, but if you want to do something like that, you go to one place and the one living with dementia goes into something other. And so it could be an activity for your loved one. It could be that they're getting OT or PT services, depending upon the location that you go to and what's offered. But respite can come in a whole slew of ways and things. But it's important that those get done, that you do take a break as often as you can.
Totally. How much time or the caregiver, how much attention on a daily basis does the caregiver have to tend to or focus in on of the family member that has Alzheimer's? Is it 24/7?
It's pretty much it's pretty much 24/7 for so many of our caregivers. I mean, what is time? I mean, they lose track of time and days and of the week because that's all they do. So again, depending upon the type of dementia that the person's living with and what stage they're in, it could be that they're awakened throughout the evening and delusional, or seeing things that are not there, and that's pretty scary for our caregivers, because if you're a spouse in the same bedroom, for example, and awaken to someone over you that you feel might hurt you, or that has hurt you, and that happens, we see that the personalities are changed, the brains are changed forever with so many forms of dementia. That during the night that can be a scary time, and so a lot of our caregivers just don't rest well. And then unless they have respite support or someone coming in the home to help give them a break, they may not get to nap during the day or get much rest themselves. So I would say they would say it's 24/7. Because one thing, Dr. Chris, is they don't forget it. I mean, they may not physically be with their loved one. Maybe they do have a job that they have to go to and they leave, but it's constantly in the back of their mind, oh, I wonder how, mom is doing or dad is doing. And learning to trust professionals that can come in and help.
Yeah, when you have a worry in the back of your mind, that's draining.
Oh, completely.
Constantly.
It's so hard. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. And just, their brain never shuts off. And so our organization and others like us understand that. Most of us have been caregivers. Our staff and board, they've been caregivers, and they know how difficult and challenging it is and how important it is to have support. And that support can come in many shapes and sizes.
Yeah, that's been a cool thing that I've just learned in this past 25 minutes or so is the variables. I mean, this is also same stuff that I end up talking about with my patients too. Just
sure.
I'll ask them, I'll pick a random visit and I'll be like, hey, what have you done? What do you do for yourself? And they're
right.
like, huh? Some of them are like, what do you mean?
I know it's foreign. It's like, yeah.
They're like, what?
I've never done that.
Or they say, oh, I just sit around and watch TV.
That's right.
And it's like, no, it needs to be active, engaging, and doing something that humans actually need to do.
That's right. Agreed. Yeah.
It makes me think of snowballs and momentum, especially when hearing about a caregiver not having the time to sleep or not having the time or maybe want to get the movement in or eat
Right.
well or take care of their mind, it leads to a big negative snowball, which is why all those chronic issues are
That's
popping
right.
up for
That's
them.
right. And their health declines, because of all these things. So if they've got a chronic condition, it quite often worsens. And by the time they're in, if the caregiver and the loved one are both in their 80s, by the time you get to that point, Alzheimer's, for example, is 1 in every 2 people by the age of 85, and probably 1/4 of the caregivers actually die before the person they're caring for by that age, just because of all the added stress, because they've not only been responsible for themselves, but for another person.
So that statistic, half of 80-year-olds.
By the age of 85,
85.
this current stats kind of are showing that by the age of 85, 1 in every 2 persons are diagnosed.
So imagine, I wonder how many households there are that have both
That's right.
spouses over the age of 85.
That's right.
That means half those houses have someone afflicted with Alzheimer's.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. And again, those caregivers, and in Arkansas, the stats are staggering. I mean, we have over 150,000 people that claim to be a caregiver for someone with a dementia, and they're giving this, over $140 million worth of unpaid caregiving support. And when you start looking at all the stats, I mean, it's just staggering at the need that is there for the support of the family caregiver.
What is the caregiver in coffee?
Coffee with Caregivers is something that our educational director does once a month, and then we will actually do it in other places if requested, but it's online, and it's just a time where it's an online support group. So bring your coffee, 10:30 in the mornings, you just bring your coffee along on the call and get on the Zoom and listen, learn, ask questions, share with whomever may be on that call. But then we actually go to other places. If we have requests to, we can actually do a coffee, a brunch, a lunch and learn, those types of things at other locations, and spend that time sharing education, sharing resources that are available, encouraging the family caregiver, offering that time as a respite time. And in some cases, our organization is blessed to be able to give many grants to caregivers so that we can help offset the costs of them being away from home during that time, to help pay for someone to be able to even participate in something like that.
Right. Are there any places in Arkansas that wouldn't have access to Alzheimer's Arkansas services?
We hope not. We do our best to cover the entire state. So we're a phone call away, we're an email away, our website is available, and we travel the state. And so if our respite activities, where we go into a place and offer some kind of activity for fun and for a break, we can do anywhere. And we've had a couple of dozen different cities that we've actually been in this year to be able to provide those. And so we do our best to serve the entire state and have since 1984. And so it's a blessing to be able to serve family caregivers that may not have another choice. They must be at home because of the desire to stay home, or a financial situation, or lack of insurance situation. I mean, there are a lot of different reasons why the people living with dementia are at home. And we just want everyone in the state of Arkansas to know that we are here, that we are available to talk to you, to try to do what we can to lessen your burden. And if it is coming in and helping start a support group, we do provide leadership training and support of support groups throughout the state. Our respite activities, our grants, we have a couple of grants that are available to caregivers statewide. One in particular is just the Central Arkansas region. But those respite grants are important for everyone to know, that there is financial assistance available too. So printed resources, videos, those types of things we have in our lending library. So anything a family needs, we want to try to do our best to help. And if we can't provide the service or the support, we're going to help you find it.
And thinking of the concept of making Arkansas happier and healthier,
Yes.
Alzheimer's Arkansas is playing a critical role with
Well,
that.
we appreciate that, and yes, like I said, we're getting ready to celebrate 40 years in January, and since 2001, we've been providing financial assistance. Since 2011, respite activities, and so those two things are main priorities to helping families, and so we look forward to the next 40 years ahead.
That's awesome. And Stephenie, thank you so much for coming on. This has been
It was
awesome.
a pleasure.
This is
Thank
excellent.
you so much
Yeah.
for the opportunity.
No, this is wonderful.
Thank you.
We hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Happier, Healthier Arkansas. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your guys' support. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Thank you for joining us. And if you're on a mission to help make Arkansas happier, healthier with us, again, please feel free to share this with anyone that you know, so that way we can continue to help perpetuate the mission of making Arkansas the happiest, healthiest state on the entire planet. Until next time, see ya!